Idols demand, Jesus gives. Idols threaten, Jesus forgives. Idols keep a ledger when you don't measure up, but Jesus cancels the debt. Whatever you build your life on will eventually ask for your worship. Whatever you build your life on will eventually ask for your worship. What starts as meaning becomes a master that makes demands. So finding out what is the control center of your life, what is your life really circling around, realize this, that you can have that thing there, but they will always be shaky ground. It will never be rooted, and it will never be something that finally fulfills you. But then we have to ask the question, if rival centers have real power, how does Christ actually break the chains of captivity? Paul answers by taking us to the cross, and what he says is a thing that is so explosive and dynamite that should make us feel in awe when we hear it. He says we can recenter our whole life in 15 minutes. Give me 15 minutes. We can recenter our whole life right now. So we have to live from the dethroning. Live from the dethroning. So Paul moves from warning to victory. He says this in verse. Sorry, guys. He says this in verse 11. In him also you were circumcised with the circumcision made without hands, by putting off the body of the flesh, by the circumcision of Christ, having been buried with him in baptism, in which you were also raised with him through faith in the powerful working of God who raised him from the dead. Here's this translation. Something happened to you that you could not do for yourself based on what Jesus has done. A spiritual cutting away of flesh that gives us a certain identity, a removal of an old identity and a severing of the old center. Paul says, having been buried with him in baptism, we are raised with him. We are not into a place of behavior modification. What we have experienced of what Jesus has done on the cross is its allegiance transfer. It is regime change. Baptism is the funeral for your old center. Whatever you might have been, if you were a people pleaser, if you're a person that looked for success or power or whatever, when Jesus comes in and he dies the death, and he not only dies the death, but he's raised from the dead, what we experience from a circumcision that is a cutting away of our old identity so that we have a new identity. Not only is baptism a funeral for your old self and your old centers, and then when you come up, you are brought new. Paul is explaining to the Colossians that you don't need to go and do extra things because Jesus has done so much for you. The announcement that the throne has changed hands, the burial of your old ruler has been announced, which means this: following Jesus is not, I'll add some Jesus to my life or my schedule. It is, my life has a new king, it has a new center. And then Paul goes right for the place of where idols love to rule. Okay, I know that you're here right now and you're saying, okay, Josh, where do idols rule in my life? Accusation. Accusation. This is the only thing that idols can do, is accuse you of what? Your old identity, your old life. And it can accuse you and say, that's not going to work, try this. That's not going to work, try this. That is why it says that the devil, the Satan, is an accuser of the brethren. That is why all these elemental spirits, they accuse you. In this passage, the way that we dethroned the old idols is not getting a replacement idol, but replacing our life with Christ's life. You who were dead, God made alive together with him, having forgiven us all our trespasses by canceling the record of debt that stood against us with its legal demands. This he set aside, nailing it to the cross. Your whole life, all of the things, all of the accusations have been nailed to the cross. This is debt language. This is legal language. The record of debt that is on file, the list, the evidence, the shame, the here's what you did, here's how you failed, here's what you promised and you didn't deliver. Idle and slave through accusation. They say, you are what you achieve. You are what you look like. You are what they think. You are what you control. You are what you win. And the moment you slip up, they punish you. They accuse you. They drive you harder. And the moment that you have a second to breathe, you go, is this life even worth living? But Paul says something happened at that cross of Calvary. God canceled the record of debt. He didn't minimize it. He didn't negotiate it away. He didn't excuse it. He canceled it. How? By nailing it to the cross. So the accusation that powers your idol is stripped of its authority by the hammer that nailed Jesus' hand to the tree. Because if the record is canceled, these powers, these enslavers, lose their leverage. If the debt is paid, the creditor cannot demand more. If the file is nailed down, the prosecutor has no case. Do you understand why Paul is so hoping that you understand not only who Jesus is, but what Jesus has done for you? That the powers in your life that make you exhausted now lose its breath because every time it says something to you, you say, it's been nailed to the tree. And then Paul goes even bigger. He says this, he disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them in him. This is an incredible, beautiful word, Christus Victor. The cross looked like defeat to us. It was a cosmic victory. The powers were stripped and they were publicly shamed and triumphed over. Meaning this, behind your idols are spiritual forces that love to keep you captive through fear, accusation, and desire. And Paul says that the cross broke their power. The cross broke their rule. The cross rendered them useless. Tim Keller has this awesome quote. I know it's long, but here it goes. No person, not even the best one, can give your soul all it needs. This cosmic disappointment and disillusionment is there in all of life. But we especially feel it in the things in which we set our hopes. When you finally realize this, there are 4 things you can do. This is the big part of what I wanted you to see. You can blame the things that are disappointing you and try to move on to better ones. That's the way of continued idolatry and spiritual addiction. You can blame yourself and beat yourself up. That's the way of self-loathing and shame. You can blame the world. That's how you get hard, cynical, and empty. Or you can reorient the entire focus of your life on God. Paul is calling for the last one, reorientation. Not shame, not cynicism, not addiction, reorientation. So, I just want you to see this right now. Jesus doesn't climb onto the throne of your life. He hangs for you on the cross. The center of your life is no longer a seat of control or a platform for idols, but a place marked by self-giving love. This is so beautiful, guys. What Jesus has done is so beautiful, and for a moment, if you can just behold it and what he has done for you and what he has done for the center of your life, everything will be changed. All of the idols will be broken. Why? Because everything is gaming to take the throne of the center of your life. And Jesus says, I don't want to take that throne. I'm going to create a new throne called the cross, and I'm going to have a new crown called the crown of thorns. And I'm not going to be someone that takes a seat at the throne. I'm going to come down and self-giving sacrifice and serve you. How do you know that you can trust Jesus at the center of your life. Because he doesn't take you by sheer power and force, but by redeeming love. Jesus doesn't climb onto the throne of your life. He hangs on the cross in self-giving love. So if you are the center and you must save yourself, justify yourself, secure yourself, defend yourself, prove yourself, how exhausting is your life? Some of you are tired not because of your busy schedule, but because your center has become so heavy that you've had to defend so many things, that you've had to be in control of so much. Because the throne you're sitting on was never built to hold you. And then the gospel walks in and says, step down. I've already taken care of the record of debt. I have already won the victory. David Zoll names this beautifully. He says, you can find community at a bar. You can find self-realization in therapy. You can find tradition in Nepal. You can find wholesomeness in Utah. You can find political exhortation, everywhere. What you find in the Christian faith that you can't find elsewhere, the big relief of God's saving grace. Which is to say, the gospel of Jesus Christ. Grace is the most important, most urgent, and most radical contribution Christianity has to make to the life of the world. I want you to hear this word again. Relief. Think about your center. Think about all of the things that you've been having to hold. And he says, with the accusations that are coming after you, that are saying, be more, do enough, more. Jesus delivers grace. And I want you to experience relief. When all of your old idols still yell, they still accuse, they still say, you're still following this Jesus guy, you still don't have your life together over here, or you don't have your life together over here. I want you to hear the pounding of the nail with all of those accusations to that tree and see that those things have been broken. The power over those things no longer has no power over you anymore. Relief. That's what dethroning feels like. Relief because your debt is nailed. Relief because your accuser is silenced, muzzled. Relief because your enslavers are stripped down of all of their power. Jesus is not waiting to see if you can perform well enough to earn center status. He already went to the cross. He already won the throne. So here's the question today. Which idol has been sitting at your center? Has it been comfort, approval, control, power? Name it. And not vaguely. Be specific. Don't say it's just stuff. Name it. Because you can't dethrone what you will not name. If it has taken you away through deceitful captivity, and it's disguised itself, you have to name it. You have to say, this has been the center of my life and no longer. Jesus is the center of my life. Jesus is the Lord of my life. Jesus is the Christ. And then I want you to say something true. That power was disarmed at the cross. I want you to do that at your work this week, and you are feeling stressed out and all of these different things. Be like, that power has been rendered useless at the cross. I am deeply loved. I'm deeply cared for by Christ. Some of you have been trying to stop an idol by willpower, but idols don't just need resistance, they need a replacement. They need a king. We can't do a different idol, we need Christ. And what kind of king is he? Jesus sits on a throne, and it's not a king who feeds off you. He's a king who pours himself out for you. A king whose throne looks like a cross. A king who wins by self-giving love. So the invitation today is not try harder. The invitation is just come back to Jesus. Isn't he wonderful? Isn't he great? Isn't he worthy of all of our worship? Isn't he worthy to be the center of it all? Isn't he worthy of all of the things that we give so much praise and so much attention to, all these things that are not worthy of our life? And isn't he good? So every day today, whisper something like, Jesus, you are the center of my life. And then also name what is competing. Declare that the cross has stripped away all of its authority. Give thanks. Because thanksgiving is a diagnostic. When Christ is center, gratitude grows. When idols are center, our anxiety grows. So practice gratitude this week as a form of spiritual warfare. And when the enemy accuses you and says, you're not good enough, you say, I'm not the person. It's not me anymore. My life is now hidden in Christ Jesus. I'm not good enough, but Jesus was good enough, and he has given me his life. Let's pray. I'm going to ask you guys to stand. Just maybe put your hands out in a posture of receiving. We have communion at the front, which is our family table. Because of the body that was broken for you, your life could be made whole. Because of the fruit of the vine, it is for the forgiveness of sins. So I want you to come to the family table, and I want you to say, Jesus, be the center of my life, and then take of it. For many of you, you need to do a little bit more today, and you need to come to the side and receive some prayer. If today you have zeroed in or located the idol that has been competing for the love of Jesus in your life, might it be a relationship, it might be work, whatever, you need to come to the front and just surrender it over to Jesus. And the whole church here needs to worship like we've never worshiped before. Because through praise and through thanksgiving, we actually see that the power, that the unseen realm, that the power of the forces that once accused us have no right when we praise the risen King Jesus Christ, who nailed all of our accusations to a tree, that forgave all of our debts and sins, that he now gives us a new name with a new center and a new life, and we sing loud because Jesus Christ is Lord of all, and we sing, all hail King